Welcome back to the deep dive. This time, we're diving into Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Workweek,
Oh, yeah.
a book that's it's almost like a manifesto
I think so.
for anyone who's ever felt
Totally.
like, there's more to life than just this daily grind.
Absolutely.
And, you guys already have your copies, so,
Uh-huh.
this isn't just about working less. It's about
Right.
designing a life
Yeah.
where you have freedom, adventure,
Yeah.
and you're still achieving
Right.
those financial goals that are important to you.
It really challenges. You know that whole traditional idea of work until you're 65, then you can enjoy life. Face actually calls that the deferred life plan.
Mm.
And his argument is that's actually probably robbing us of, our most vibrant years.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Imagine, you finally hit retirement.
Right.
And then you realize, oh, I'm too burnt out to actually enjoy all this stuff. The travel, the passion projects, all the things you put off.
Yeah.
all
All those
the
things
depth.
you dreamed of.
Ferriss is all about reclaiming those years.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because he argues it's not about being lazy. It's about being strategic
Right.
with your time and energy.
Yeah, and he makes a really good case for how busyness doesn't actually equal productivity. He actually argues that getting rid of that meaningless work is really the key to unlocking higher levels of achievement.
I like that.
It's about, focusing on that 20% of your efforts that actually drive 80% of your results.
Oh, yeah.
The Pareto principle.
That's a good one. And that's where the 4-hour workweek idea comes in. It's not about literally working 4 hours.
Right.
It's more about designing a lifestyle where you're in control.
Right.
You're in control of your times, your income,
Yeah.
and ultimately your happiness.
For sure.
He shares this great anecdote about Dale Bigsmith, who's an Olympic gold medalist, and at the same time was building this successful IT company.
Wow.
Talk about shattering that myth
Yeah.
of the workaholic hero.
Right. Multitasking at its finest.
Seriously.
And Ferriss's own journey is pretty incredible, too. Oh, yeah.
He felt so trapped in his 14-hour workday. And now he's a tango champion. He's learned multiple languages, and obviously he wrote this best-selling book.
That's amazing.
He's living proof that this new rich lifestyle,
Yeah.
it's not just a pipe dream.
Yeah. So how do we actually achieve this? Where do we start?
Well, I think it starts with questioning the status quo.
Okay.
Ferriss challenges us to look at all those deeply ingrained beliefs we have about work, about success, and he really wants us to examine those instead of just accepting them.
I see.
He says, if we can identify those fears
Right.
and then address them head on, that's how we break free from the limits that they put on us.
Okay.
He even talks about, doing this fear-setting exercise
Cool.
where you actually visualize your worst-case scenario and then plan how you'd recover.
Okay.
It's all about taking away the power from those anxieties.
Interesting. I remember he has that part where he's talking about,
Yeah.
stealing lunch money from kindergartners
Yeah.
as a worst case backup plan.
Yeah. Obviously, he's joking. It's pretty funny.
But it shows how absurd most of our fears are when you really think about it.
So true.
It's a good reminder that a lot of times the biggest thing in our way is our own self-doubt.
Yeah.
So if we can reframe how we think about risk and even failure, we can actually find the courage to go after the things that really matter to us.
So once we've kind of tackled those fears, how do we actually start
Yeah.
designing our ideal lifestyle?
Well, Ferriss really emphasizes defining what your goals are, what your dreams are.
Right.
He calls this lifestyle design.
Okay.
It's about being proactive, creating a life that shows your values and what you want, instead of just letting circumstances dictate where you go.
I like that.
He wants us to ask ourselves, what would your dream life look like if you didn't have to focus on work so much?
Wow. That is a powerful question.
Yeah.
It really makes you think outside. That default script of work, retire, and then enjoy life.
Exactly.
Like shifting your mindset from just surviving to really thriving. Okay, so we've got this vision. How do we actually start making it real?
Well, Ferriss introduces this idea of elimination and automation,
Okay.
which basically means getting rid of unnecessary tasks and then automating everything else.
Right.
He loves the 80-20 principle. 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts.
So we got to figure out what that 20% is.
Well, yeah.
Get rid of the other stuff.
Right.
He has some pretty radical examples in there, like cutting contact with 95% of his customers.
Yeah.
And his profits actually went up.
I know. It's wild.
That's incredible.
It's about streamlining everything.
Yeah.
Focusing on the essentials and then trusting other people to handle the rest.
So delegation,
Delegation.
automation, outsourcing.
Exactly.
These are all key.
For sure.
He even talks about going on a low information diet,
Oh, yeah.
like cutting back on the news and media you consume.
It's so relevant now.
It really is.
With all the distractions we have.
He argues if we can be more selective with that information,
Yeah.
we can get our mental energy back
For sure.
and focus on what matters.
It's all about being intentional with your time and your attention.
Right.
He wants us to ask, is this activity helping me reach my goals? Or is it just noise?
It's hard, though, to break those habits.
It is.
You know, that busyness and that connectivity.
It's so ingrained.
But if we can embrace this elimination thing,
yeah.
we can free up so much time and energy
Absolutely.
for the things that really matter.
And that's where automation comes in.
Okay.
Ferriss says that. If we can systematize and automate as much as possible, we can build businesses that generate income without us having to be super involved.
So passive income.
Yeah.
He calls these businesses muses.
Yes.
They're designed to be low maintenance, high profit,
Right.
so you can escape
Yeah.
that 9-to-5 grind.
He lays out some really specific criteria. For picking a muse,
Like what?
you need a niche market, high profit margins, low production time, and very little customer service.
I see. And I remember he has some pretty cool examples of these muses in action. Like that guy Doug, who had that successful business reselling sound effects libraries.
Yeah, it sounds almost too good to be true.
I know.
But Ferriss stresses that you have to test your muse first.
Okay.
Don't go all in without validating your idea.
Sure.
Get some feedback, make adjustments,
Yeah.
minimize your risk, and then you can maximize your chances of success.
I like it. He also talks about simplifying your business model,
Oh, yeah.
which can mean offering less choices, streamlining operations,
Right?
or just focusing on one product or service.
It's interesting because sometimes offering less actually leads to more success.
How so?
You reduce complexity,
Right.
and that can increase efficiency, customer satisfaction, and your bottom line.
Wow. So we've covered a lot
We have.
in this first part of our deep dive. We've talked about the core principles of the 4-hour work week, questioning the status quo, facing those fears, designing that ideal lifestyle, and getting rid of all the unnecessary stuff.
And we're just getting started.
I know, it's a lot.
There's so much more in this book.
I'm excited to keep going.
In the next part, we're going to get into those muses, explore mini retirements, and talk about how to find meaning and purpose, even with less work.
I can't wait.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We were talking about those muses, the businesses that kind of run themselves and free you up to do those things you've always wanted to do.
It's like having your cake and eating it too.
Yeah.
But let's dig into those muses a bit more. You mentioned some criteria: niche market, high profit margins, low production time, minimal customer service. What are some businesses that actually fit that?
Well, think about things that people are really into, but they don't have a lot of good options for.
Okay.
Like Doug's sound effects library. There's
Right.
a ton of filmmakers, YouTubers, game developers. All these people need those specific sounds, and Doug figured out a way to give them what they need and do it efficiently.
Finding that spot where your knowledge and a market need.
Oh, Sear.
Ferriss actually says, we should brainstorm our skills, hobbies, even just things we're curious about, and then see if we can turn that into a product or service that solves a problem for someone.
That's a great place to start.
And don't be afraid to think outside the box.
Definitely not.
He talks about information products, like online courses, ebooks, membership sites, things that can bring in passive income once you've made them,
Yeah, they're perfect for the muse model.
because you create it once and it can keep selling for years. But how do you know if people will actually buy it?
That's where testing comes in.
Okay,
Ferriss is big on validating your muse. Before you go all in,
makes sense.
you can make a landing page, run some ads, or just ask people in your network.
Get that feedback early.
Exactly, before you spend too much time and money.
He also talks about keeping your business model simple,
Oh, yeah.
fewer choices for customers, streamlined operations, focusing on what actually brings in the money.
It sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes offering less actually leads to more success.
I guess when things are less complicated,
Right.
everything's just more efficient.
And your customers are happier.
So you've got your muse running, it's making money, you don't have to spend all your time on it. What do you do with all that free time?
That's where the mini retirements come in.
Okay, tell me more.
These aren't just those 2-week vacations.
More like extended time off
Yeah.
to travel and explore.
Exactly.
And they don't have to be just for rich people.
No, not at all.
He shows how the cost of living can be lower in other countries. He even shares his own monthly expenses. in places like Buenos Aires and Berlin. It was surprisingly affordable.
It can be.
And he talks about those fears
Yeah.
that hold people back. Safety, career implications, just the logistics of leaving.
Those are big ones.
He gives advice on things like negotiating remote work or taking long leaves of absence.
And he shares stories of people who've actually done it. They've built mini retirements into their lives.
It shows that it's possible to break free from that traditional career path without messing up your income.
You don't have to sacrifice everything.
It's empowering to know that there are different ways to live and work.
Absolutely.
But even with a 4-hour work week
Right.
and the ability to travel, what about purpose? What do you do with all that time?
That's something a lot of people wonder about.
It's like we're so used to defining ourselves by our jobs.
Right.
And if we take that away.
We might feel a bit lost.
Exactly.
But Ferriss says, this is a chance for self-discovery.
Okay.
A chance to find those passions again, explore new interests, and figure out what really makes our lives meaningful.
So not just filling the time,
Yeah.
but finding things that actually excite us.
He says, think about what you loved as a kid. What hobbies you've always wanted to try. What causes are important to you.
Get back to those roots.
Yeah.
He even have this question. If money were no object, how would you spend your time?
That's a good one.
It makes you think about what you really want.
It does.
And it's not just about personal stuff.
Right.
Ferriss also talks about giving back to the community,
Making a positive impact.
whether it's volunteering,
Yeah.
supporting a cause,
Or even just being more mindful of your footprint.
finding meaning beyond work.
Exactly.
There's this quote from Viktor Frankl that really stuck with me. He says, "Man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life, and not a secondary rationalization of instinctual drives."
Wow, that's powerful.
It shows that we all need meaning
It's a core human need.
to feel like we're contributing,
Absolutely.
and that might look different for everyone.
Of course.
Maybe it's starting a creative business, traveling the world, helping people in need.
There are so many possibilities.
The key is to experiment
Try things out.
and trust that you'll find your way.
The path will unfold.
Ferriss also talks about always learning new things.
Oh yeah, lifelong learning.
He says it keeps your mind sharp.
And opens you up to new things.
He wants us to be Renaissance individuals,
I love that.
exploring all kinds of interests.
It could be learning a language, playing an instrument, anything that sparks your curiosity.
And in today's world, that kind of learning is more important than ever.
Things change so fast.
What's valuable today might be outdated tomorrow.
You got to be adaptable.
But maybe the most important thing is to remember to slow down.
To enjoy the journey.
He has that poem in the book, Slow Dance.
Oh yeah.
It's all about appreciating the present moment,
Not getting so caught up in the future.
that you miss out on what's happening now.
It's a good reminder.
Life isn't just about checking things off a list.
Right.
It's about enjoying the little things,
Spending time with people you love.
making memories.
It's about finding that balance between working towards your goals and appreciating the journey.
Makes a lot of sense.
And remember, there's no magic formula for finding meaning and purpose.
The 4-hour work week is more like a set of guidelines
A philosophy.
to help you create a life
Yeah.
that fits with your values.
It's about taking control of your time, your energy, and ultimately, your own happiness.
Designing a life where you can thrive
Yeah.
personally and professionally.
It's about living with intention, making choices that are good for you, and contribute to the world.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We've been talking about Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Work Week, a book that really pushes us to rethink how we see work, time, and what it means to have a fulfilling life. We talked about getting rid of the unnecessary stuff, building those automated businesses, even taking mini retirements. But now, let's talk about purpose. How do we find meaning when we have less traditional work?
That's a question a lot of people have, and Ferriss talks about it directly. He gets that for many of us. Our work is tied to our identity. It gives us structure, purpose.
So when we cut back on those hours or leave those traditional careers, it makes sense that we might have a bit of a crisis.
Yeah, like an identity crisis almost.
We're so used to thinking that our worth comes from how productive we are.
Right.
So when we step away from that, we feel a little lost.
Exactly. But Ferriss actually says, this is a huge opportunity.
For what?
For self-discovery. It's a chance to reconnect with those passions, find new interests, and define what really matters to us.
So it's not about just filling up the time.
No, it's got to be more than that.
It's about finding things that light us up inside.
He says, Think back to when you were a kid. What did you love to do? What hobbies have you always wanted to try? What causes speak to your heart?
Go back to those things, those core parts of yourself.
Yeah.
He asked this great question. If money were no object, how would you spend your time?
It really makes you think.
What would you do if you didn't have to worry about money?
It forces you to confront your true desires.
And this isn't just about personal fulfillment either.
Right.
Ferriss talks about giving back,
Making a difference in the world.
volunteering, supporting causes,
Even just being more aware of your impact.
finding meaning beyond your job.
Exactly.
There's a quote from Viktor Frankl that I love. Man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life, and not a secondary rationalization of instinctual drives.
That's deep.
It shows how much we need meaning
It's a basic human need
to feel like we're
to
contributing.
something bigger than ourselves.
And that can look different for everyone.
Absolutely.
Some people might start a creative business. Others might travel the world. Maybe it's dedicating your time to helping others.
The point is to find what resonates with you.
Experiment, explore,
Yeah.
and trust that you'll figure it out along the way.
The path will reveal itself.
Ferriss also talks about always learning new things. He calls it a lifestyle of perpetual learning.
Lifelong learning is so important,
He says it keeps your mind sharp.
and it opens up new possibilities.
He wants us to be like Renaissance individuals,
Having a wide range of interests.
learning a language,
Yeah.
playing an instrument, anything that grabs your attention.
And in a world that's constantly changing, that kind of learning is essential.
Because what's valuable today might be irrelevant tomorrow.
You got to be adaptable to keep up,
But maybe the most important thing is to slow down.
to enjoy the ride.
He includes this poem in the book. It's called Slow Down.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
It's all about appreciating the present moment, not getting so caught up in achieving that you miss the beauty of life.
We all need that reminder sometimes.
Life's not just about checking things off a list.
It's about those little moments.
Connecting with people, creating memories.
Finding that balance between striving for your goals and enjoying the journey.
That's really what it's all about.
And remember, there's no one right way to do this.
The 4-Hour Workweek. It's more like a philosophy
A set of tools and ideas.
to help you build a life that truly aligns with your values.
It's about taking control of your time, your energy, and ultimately, your happiness
Designing a life where you can thrive.
in every sense of the word.
Wow, this has been a really deep dive. We've covered a lot, from questioning the status quo to embracing freedom, purpose, and continuous learning. But there's so much more to uncover. In Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Workweek, I highly recommend you guys grab a copy and explore these ideas further.
And if you're looking for more book summaries, more discussions, be sure to subscribe to One Book a Day on YouTube. We've got a whole library of deep dives waiting for you.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. And remember, don't just work for the weekend. Design a life you love.